Hello, good morning, everyone, from my time here in Nigeria. My name is Pharmacist Jacob Daudagwari, a trained pharmacist and a forest trader. Today, we are going to continue with our series on how to draw trend line, but I want us to include drawing counter trend line for simple and easy entry. If you can add this strategy to your own conferences, it will go a long way in making you to become more profitable. It's a very simple strategy. So I want us to know how to draw counter trend line, but we are going to use gold for today. We are going to use gold to draw our counter trend line. So normally when I open my chart, the first thing I do is to go to the daily time frame to determine the trend of the market. So I go to the daily time frame to determine the trend of the market. Uh, from what I'm seeing here on the daily time frame, you can look for the origin of the trend, the downtrend. Look for the origin of the downtrend. That's the trough. So the trough is here. So we draw our trend line from the origin of the uptrend, which is here, which is here. We draw our trend line like this, like this. This is very simple and straightforward on the daily time frame. So from the higher time frame, that's the daily time frame, we are on uptrend. Now we'll go to 4 hour time frame. Remember, we are day traders. So go to the 4 hour time frame to look for a place we can draw another trend line. We are doing that to help us narrow our bias. So this is the origin of the uptrend from here. So we draw our trend line from the origin here where the previous trend line has touched before. So this is a trend line from the daily time frame and it has touched here. This is the last trough it has touched. So we begin our another trend line from where it has previously touched. So this is perfect. We have drawn our trend line from here. That's the origin of the trough of the uptrend. Perfect. So we now narrow it to 1 hour time frame. 1 hour time frame to draw another trend line from the 1 hour time frame. So we look for where the trend line drawn from the 4 hour time frame has touched previously, and this is where it is. So we consider it as the origin of the trough of the trend from the 1 hour time frame. So we now draw our trend line from here. It's as simple as that. We move it into the future. Uh, Move it to the future. We must ensure that it touches at least two troughs. That's what makes it to be a valid trend line. It has to touch at least two troughs to make it a valid trend line. It must touch at least two troughs. The higher the trough it touches, the better it is. But from here, we can see that it has touched this origin and then the other trough from the 1 hour time frame. Then we move to the 15 minutes time frame to draw another trainer and look for an entry. We move to the 15 time frame to draw another trend line for an entry. So you can see that gold has been on a down, I mean on an uptrend move for a long time. It retraces some weeks ago, but right now it's continuing its upward move. So we are on the 15 minutes time frame. This is where we normally look for our entry on the 15 minutes time frame. So from the 1 hour time frame, let's go back to the 1 hour time frame to draw the counter trend line I was talking about from the initial when we started today. Our aim is to draw continue with trend line drawing, and then we added counter trend line for simple entry. Counter trend line for simple entry. So I will advise that we go to the 1 hour time frame to look for where to draw the counter trend line. So from here, we can draw our counter trend line from here. This is counter trend line. We draw it from here, draw our counter trend line from here, and once there's breakage of the counter trend line, we enter. You can see it's as simple as that. Once there's breakage of this counter trend line, we enter. So you can see this is a very perfect counter trend line. And once we just sit on our hands and wait patiently for this counter trend line to be broken. And once it broke and retests, then we enter for long. Once it broke the counter trend line and retest, we enter for long. Perfect. This is counter trend line. Let's look for another counter trend line again on go for an entry. So we can see another counter trend line here on the 1 hour time frame. Draw another counter trend line here. Very perfect. And we sit on our hands to wait for the breakage of the counter trend line and retest of it, then we enter. We sit on our hands to wait for the breakage of the counter trend line, then we enter. So I always advise that the counter trend line should be drawn on the 1 hour time frame. Then we go to the 15 minutes time frame and wait patiently for breakage of the counter trend line and retest, then we enter. See? We can also draw another counter trend line here. We can also draw another counter trend line here for entry. The 1 hour time frame and draw counter trend line here. Counter trend line here. Counter trend line. Another good counter trend line here. So this strategy does not need any serious uh, all this Fibonacci retracement, all those you know, all those complex kind of analysis. Just for you to know how to draw your trend line. Once you draw your trend line from the daily to determine the long time, you go to the 1 hour to determine the current trend. Then on that same 1 hour, you proceed to draw your counter trend line for an entry. And when you draw your counter trend line on the 1 hour time frame, you go to the 15 minutes time frame. So we have drawn our counter trend line. How many of them here? We have drawn one here. We have drawn one, another one here. We have drawn another one here. And this always gives us very accurate entry. Very accurate entry. It's not it's not complicated, it's not complex, very accurate entry. Just draw your trend line, locate the long time trend of the market, then you proceed to the current time trend, which is 1 hour time frame. You look for a position to draw your counter trend line. Once you draw your counter trend line on the 1 hour time frame, you now go to the 15 minutes time frame to look for an entry. It's as simple as that. And I assure you, if you apply this one on your conferences, I assure you it will go a long way in making it to be very profitable. You can see from here, this counter trend line, there was breakage of this counter trend line and retest here. Then we enter from here. You can see if you calculate how many pips, there is a very long, let's calculate how many pips this one gives us from here. Let's calculate how many pips this one will give us. It gives us about about 61 pips. That's a huge amount of money. 61 pip. Imagine you enter with 0.5 lot size or 1 lot size, depending on your account size. That's a huge amount of money. You know, let's check the other one, the previous counter trend line we've drawn, and see how many pips it has given us. Now let's calculate this perfect counter trend line here from the 1 hour time frame we drawn previously. You see there was a breakage here, retest here, and we enter from here. Look at how many pips would have gotten from here. Let's calculate how many pips would have gotten from here. How many pips would have gotten from here? Just draw your trend line look for where to draw a counter trend line, and you just sit on your arms and wait patiently. This is almost how many pips? This is about 170 pips. 170 pips. You can imagine 170 pips. So that's a very good, simple strategy that we can apply on our confluences to increase our profitability. Let's check the first counter trend withdrawn. Look at it. There was breakage here, retest, and boom, we enter from here. Now imagine if you sit on your arms patiently and wait, how many pips you are going to make from here. Let's calculate how many pips you are going to make from here. It will give us a huge amount of pips. Yeah, about 246 pips. 200 and 200. Let's move it down here. About 218 pips. 218 pips. 218 pips. 219 pips. Imagine you have 219 pips. I mean, even if you are able to catch this kind of moves once in a week, it goes a long way in making it to become very profitable. So guys, let's endure let's endeavor to watch this video from the beginning to the end and then apply it on our confluences. This will increase our level of profitability. I assure you it will increase your level of profitability. If you can sit down and watch this video from the beginning to the end and apply it on your own confluences, it will go a long way in making it to be very profitable. So thank you so much, um, for uh, coming this long way watching this video. And if today is your first time coming across my video, please kindly subscribe so that whenever I release very educative videos like this, YouTube can recommend it to you, and as well recommend it to as many people as possible. Thank you so much. My name still remains Pharmacist Jacob Dadogori, a trained pharmacist from Nigeria. Thank you. God bless you and see you some other time. Bye.